The Hudson River is open once more to sightseers as New York's famous Hudson River Dayline passes into new hands. The closing of the century-old excursion line threatened to deprive thousands of New Yorkers and out-of-town visitors of a favorite outing. But a new owner re-established the company, which now again carries its boatloads up the historic and majestic Hudson River. 4 steamers operate from the docks in Midtown Manhattan. Some go all the way to Poughkeepsie, 70 miles north of New York City. Others go to intermediate points of interest. The first great sight is the spectacular New York skyline, seen here to remarkable advantage. Then the boat approaches the George Washington Bridge. Nearly a mile long and 250 feet above the water, this $16 million structure has the second largest suspension span in the world, next only to that across San Francisco's Golden Gate. Here the Palisades begin their 13-mile march along the west bank. Ancient volcanic eruptions forced molten lava upright into a sandwich of sandstone and basalt. Glacial abrasions wore away the sandstone, leaving the basalt cliffs towering 500 feet above the river and the parklands at their base. The pilot steers the Dayliner into the Tappan Zee, where the Hudson is nearly 3 miles across. Now begins the legendary land of the early Dutch explorers, whose ghosts, evoked by the tales of Washington Irving, still haunt the river. The ghosts this lad is staring at are not so old, however. They are a ghost fleet, dozens of transports from the last 2 wars, now obsolete and useless. They await oblivion, along with Henry Hudson's Half Moon, the British frigates of the Revolution, the clippers of a century ago, and all of the other brave ships that in their time made history on the Hudson. The day's destination for most of the boatload is Bear Mountain Park. 42,000 acres of parkland are maintained by the New York-New Jersey Interstate Palisades Park Commission to provide a refuge in nature for the people dwelling in the barren pavements of the metropolis at the mouth of the river. Family groups, boy and girl couples, and office parties flock alike to Bear Mountain. The center of activities is the inn, surrounded by playfields that are open for casual romping or for organized sports. Girls' softball may not rank high in the annals of serious sport, but it's still fun for the girls. A new swimming pool, built into a natural glen, is one of the improvements that are constantly being added to the park facilities. Back in the wilder parts of the preservation are lakes for rugged swimmers, but the pool is the most popular. What's a day in the country without a basket lunch? Picnic tables are almost as numerous as the trees in the groves, offering a maximum of tables and a minimum of ants for the delicatessen brought up the river from town. And after a hearty meal, there's nothing like a nap in the piney fresh air. Boats are for hire on the lakes with which Bear Mountain abounds, but the sport that is particularly Bear Mountain's own is hiking. Hundreds of miles of trails wind through its wilderness up to the very peak of the mountain, with its breathtaking panorama of the Hudson winding through its valleys. After Bear Mountain, the Dayliner pushes on up the river. She makes good time, for the Hudson is a tidal estuary for more than 100 miles north of its outlet into the sea. So instead of bucking currents, the boat rides the tide upstream. Sugar Loaf is one of the distinctively shaped peaks that line the river through this section. And around the bend at West Point, the United States Military Academy lights its granite battlements. The jutting point commands the river to the north and south, and so was a military stronghold long before the Academy was founded in 1802. Today, as it has been for 147 years, the Point trains leaders for the U.S. Army. A favorite spot for West Point tourists is Trophy Point, a bluff rich in mementos and monuments of previous wars. Old cannons, relics of past battles, have a fascination especially for the very young. But the meaning of West Point is, after all, the Cadet Corps, and here on the plain they drill. Here also the mighty football team practices. With upperclassmen gone for the summer, Dayline visitors watch lowly plebes in their first training. Life at the Point is not altogether Spartan. There are bright moments when dates can be wooed by the charm of the uniform and the setting of the Point itself. Upstream, the liner skirts Storm King Mountain. A highway is hewn from the solid rock across its nose, and legend has it that Captain Kidd stored his treasure in its caves. Bannerman's Island has been the site of a private museum of antique firearms since 1860. A great castle built here at the turn of the century enhances the Hudson's fame. Newburgh was a world shipping port in the days of the whalers. Earlier, George Washington, rebuking his soldiers here, scotched once and for all any notion of kingship for an American hero. The approach to Poughkeepsie is the course of the Poughkeepsie Regatta, America's intercollegiate rowing classic. On Regatta Day, excursion boats bring thousands of sports fans up from New York to follow the races. At the Poughkeepsie dock, boys observe a custom honored in every port in the world, greeting incoming liners by diving for coins. This is the northern terminus of the line. Most of the remaining passengers take advantage of the 1 to 2 hours layover to visit Hyde Park, 6 miles away. To the ancestral home of Franklin D. Roosevelt, over 3,000 visitors a day come by boat, train, and car. The shrine of the pilgrimage is the Rose Garden, with a simple white marble tomb that the wartime president designed as the last resting place for himself and his wife when she should die. The sprawling mansion on the Hudson is included in the 33 acres that Mr. Roosevelt gave to the nation. Here the president passed his boyhood, and here he heard the election returns that sent him 4 times to the White House. Returning downstream, the liner passes Sunnyside, the beautifully restored home of Washington Irving. The creator of Rip Van Winkle and Ichabod Crane passed the last 24 years of his life in this retreat, which he called as full of gables as a cocked hat. The first dwelling was built here in 1656. Irving remodeled a later farmhouse to the taste of a man who had been America's diplomatic representative to 2 European courts and her literary representative to the world. The massive abutments of the George Washington Bridge and a soaring public housing project mark the final stage of the cruise. In a few hours, and for less than the price of some movies, the Dayline vacationist has seen 3 centuries of American history. He has eaten his sandwiches and taken his swim in some of the most magnificent settings the whole earth affords. As the towers of Manhattan rise, the excursionists enjoy their last rays of afternoon sun, the last breath of fresh river air, the last sweep of the Hudson water before they are swallowed up in the canyons of the city.